The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Boar's Head, premium meats, cheeses, and hummus. Boar's Head, compromise elsewhere.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the BankPlus Studio.
This is Al Warden.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
It's a little chilly. Blake Mania joined us, though, so that's a good thing. Good morning. Welcome in on a Max Effort Monday. This guy just refuses not to show up. And that would be, that would be Blake Mania. He was a little sick on Friday. He's back and ready. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. Want to welcome you and say good morning. Show is powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Bet $50 at the Sportsbook. Play award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club for $25. That's the Azaleas or the Oaks, and that's dancingrabbitgolf.com. Another wild weekend. I say it every Monday. Full of storylines and the ups and downs and the ebb and flow of a long college football season as we celebrate the Mardi Gras of the South between Labor Day and Thanksgiving. So, we've got several more weeks. We'll see what shakes out here. Mississippi State with a monster win. Did Mike Leach need that or what? You had, I'd be impossible to quantify or identify the percentage of the fan base that has been huffy and puffy and thinks they know what the air raid is. And there is no eye test. But anyway, have not been happy with Leach in the program. And Will Rogers was spectacular. Zach Arnett's defense was, they were great. And they got a much-needed win over a Kentucky team that was 6-1. And a physical team. And a team that's been very opportunistic the last couple of years as they've been to some big bowl games and so on. But Mississippi State with a dominant performance in Starkville on Saturday night. And that's the biggest win at home. Is that right?
I would say that's correct.
Because LSU away, A&M away, and North Carolina State, Missouri were good wins. Missouri last year, NC State this year. But that's the biggest win at home.
Yep, fourth top 25 win for Mike Leach in the first 19 games in Starkville.
Okay.
And the second at home, and it's the third top 15 win for Mike Leach in Starkville.
All right. So the Pirate comes through on Halloween weekend.
That's right.
And he believes that Will Rogers is a good person to dress up as in the world of Halloween, as he and Cole Kubelik had that discussion after the game. You can hit us up on the Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 601-707-3750. Twitter handle @BowBounds. And your Ag Up Equipment text line is 601-885-3776. That's 885-3776. So Mississippi State with a big win. Now they have two brutal road games back-to-back. They go to Fayetteville, and then they go to the Plains. And
is it hard to
Auburn.
win on the Plains?
Yeah. Well, Ole Miss found that out Saturday night, and that game could have gotten out of control. Credit to Matt Corral for coming back after what looked like a serious injury.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to go in the locker room, get taped up, maybe take a shot, and come out and compete and do everything that he could to try to help Ole Miss to win. We're watching the game right now. Luke Altmaier just got drilled.
Yeah,
by the he's got to get down and get out of bounds. But
at 14-3 with no Matt Corral, it looked like things could unravel. So I guess the one silver lining is that you were able to not let that happen, and there was a chance to win that game late.
Yeah, I thought Auburn left some out on the field in the second half.
No doubt.
And allowed Ole Miss to hang around.
There's not very many perfect teams that are pressing the pedal and running away from people outside of Georgia.
No.
That's kind of been it.
Mississippi State left some out there, too. They could have really put another exclamation point on it. And as Will Rogers said in the postgame, kind of left, at least a touchdown out. But when you have that kind of performance that Will Rogers had, 36 of 39 for 344, that was a wicked performance of the weekend, without a doubt.
Legitimately, could you or I or anyone listening complete 36 of 39 passes on air? Because I don't think we could.
No.
I don't think
and
we
neither
could.
could a lot of quarterbacks that have gone through Starkville and Oxford.
There's no doubt. But let's go back to running the wishbone.
Oh, man. You love that. You love throwing the ball.
I love that people thought it was going to be perfect in a year and a half with COVID, and that we should just, because we weren't throwing it for 800 yards a game, that all of a sudden Mike Leach didn't know how to coach football and Will Rogers couldn't play football. And
he's having to play a true freshman, now true sophomore QB.
I know.
There's some. But, hey, the defense was great, too, against a Kentucky team that had, pounded the rock.
That's
Rodriguez and, Levis, he was not effective at all, Blake. They had a punt return for a touchdown. If they had not had that,
it would have been ugly.
Yeah. They could not move the ball. They generated nothing as far as offense, and their stats were awful.
I mean, Mississippi State outrushed Kentucky. I want you to say that out loud. Mississippi State ran for 94 yards. Kentucky ran for 66.
Woo! How about that?
I don't know what to do with that number.
Well, let's say this out loud. Rodriguez, 8 carries, 34 yards. And Kavasli Smoke, 8 carries, 19 yards.
Yeah.
That'll
do it for you.
Yeah.
And that's without a sack.
And Will Levis threw 3 picks.
4 turnovers, -4 for Kentucky. They were plus.
That defensive lineman, when he caught that pick, that was hilarious.
Yeah. Tyrus Wheat and then Cam, not Jones. That's offensive lineman. Cam Young. There you go.
When he caught that pass and he was like, whoa.
That was a, mama, look what I found.
This thing is now in the breadbasket. All right, let's turn it upfield.
There you go.
He was thinking, he got tripped up pretty quick, but
he's thinking 6.
Yeah,
there
he was
go.
like, man,
what a play by Tyrus Wheat though. The hand, to get up that high and knock that ball down. But yeah, -4 turnovers for Kentucky after they forced, I believe, 6 or 7 turnovers in last year's win against Mississippi State, and obviously that was KJ Costello running the ship at that point, I think.
Well, Will went in.
Half Will, half KJ.
And that, I think that was Colin Hill's final deal. I think he threw a fit on the sideline or something, or in the locker room.
Like you said, what a big win for Mike Leach and company. And it begs the question now, what is the pecking order in the SEC? Because things are a little topsy. What we thought we knew heading into this weekend, two second-place teams in Ole Miss and Kentucky both fall.
Yeah, my SEC power rankings, obviously I've got Georgia 1. I don't think the gap is as big as a lot of people believe between Georgia and Bama, which is confusing to me because when you can sling it like Bama can, I don't think the gap is what people are trying to make it out to be. If people want to ride with that and think that Bama can't, on a one-off over 3.5 hours, get Georgia.
Just means you'll make more money come December.
Well, that's true. I bought Will Rogers stock way low, so now everybody else is getting in. And, kind of like my neighborhood, I'll let everybody else pay for it later.
There you go.
Georgia 1, Bama 2. I've got Auburn and A&M tied for 3rd.
Yeah, and they'll play this weekend, so we'll get to straighten that out on the gridiron.
Yeah. Now, after that, after Georgia at 1 and Bama at 2,
it gets murky, doesn't it?
And Auburn and A&M tied for 3rd in my SEC power rankings, and they play this weekend.
Yeah.
Then it gets real weird.
It's murky. It's muddy water.
It just depends on the weekend and the matchup, I guess.
I think that's it. We've gone back to a little bit of that old school feel of SEC football where it's, like you said, no one's dominant. So you go, well, who do you get? What version of Team A or Team B do you get that week?
And you don't know.
You don't.
What version of 19, 20, and 21-year-olds are you going to get? Isn't it crazy that we love it this much? We've all lost our minds. The Out of Bounds Show, Powered by MississippiSportsMedicine.com for any orthopedic hiccup. MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Good morning. Welcome in on a Max Effort Monday. We're live in the BankPlus Studio. Big Board next.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is powered by Breezy Oaks Ranch. For Mississippi-raised premium Wagyu beef and heritage pork shipped straight to your door, visit BreezyOaksRanch.com.
Big Board. What's on the big board?
Woo! All right. No traveling this weekend. That's a good thing. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. Want to say good morning. Welcome in. Got a good show lined up for you today. We'll go Tom Luganbill, National College Football Analyst. Lugs will join us at 8:30 on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. That is a delicious craft beer IPA. Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. So Lugs joins us on a Max Effort Monday, and Steve Robertson at 9:15. Steve Robertson, 9:15. We'll also stop by genespage.com. Blake, we have Mississippi State with a big win. I'm not surprised Ole Miss lost, even with the Corral thing. I thought that, obviously it was going to be very difficult to beat again, Auburn may not be like flashy awesome, but they are a good football team, and they're so physical up front.
Yep.
That you felt like that was going to give Ole Miss some problems, and it did. And obviously Matt Corral's injury, he said it popped. Now, I don't know what that means or doesn't mean, but, he said, I heard it pop. That was his quote. And honestly, I don't know what it was. I just couldn't feel it for like 5 minutes.
Ooh,
got it back, got an x-ray, and told them if nothing is broken, I'm going back in. And that was it. So he got it wrapped up and ready to roll, and was able to come back and play well considering. And Ole Miss had opportunities in the red zone. And look, that muffed punt was a gift from the football gods, and went 4 and out after that muffed punt. And then, Corral rolled, right late in the game in the red zone through a pit. There were opportunities there. There were opportunities for Auburn, too, to expand the lead. But Corral's one tough dude. And I don't know what it means going forward, Blake, because Will Rogers had an AC sprain in his shoulder and got, beat to hell and back against Bama. Rogers is taking hits. This is a Bo Nix. You don't ever know with him running around. Now, he did get down most of the time, and you can tell he's playing a smarter brand of football as a junior.
Which he should be.
Yeah.
And that's growth and maturity. I will say it looked like Will Rogers was limping around last night or Saturday night a little bit as well. At this point in the season, how healthy is anyone?
Well, you're right.
You mentioned that Ole Miss had opportunities. I think that's the storyline out of that game, especially for Ole Miss fans asking questions about some of the decision-making on when to go for these fourth downs and when not to. It's all fun when you're getting the fourth downs and you're winning the game. It's less fun when you're not getting the fourth downs and you're losing the game.
Right.
What do you make of Kiffin's propensity to go for it on fourth down, especially in the red zone when points theoretically were available?
I think he's going to do that. I think he has decided that it's about touchdowns and not field goals. And I think his theory that on Saturday night was on the road against a more talented team. I'm going to go for touchdowns, not field goal. Now, you can run the numbers after the game and claim that if we would have done X, Y, and Z, then maybe this would have happened. And I get that side of the story, too. But I think he thought a couple of things, Blake. I'm on the road, and Auburn's more talented.
Yeah. And they still had opportunities. I mean, even late, the Corral interception in the end zone. I mean, that if you score right there, it's still a game. So that's, you had opportunities even with not going for points in some of those scenarios.
Yeah.
But I know that's kind of the big question coming out of Oxford right now. One, is Matt Corral healthy? But two, at what point does going for it on fourth down so much hurt you more than it helps you?
Well, look, that's a great question. And I just think more times than not, you do need to go for it.
Yeah.
And then kind of reading the tea leaves and the analytics and the feel of the game, all that, Blake, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think he looks at it and says, well, he doesn't have the offense that he had several weeks ago. Okay. That's obvious by, LSU gave him some problems. Tennessee gave him some problems. This was the least they've scored under Kiffin, least amount of points, 20 against Auburn. Again, everybody has injuries, but Drummond popped his hamstring early. Sanders played, but didn't play much and wasn't real effective.
Yeah.
And Mingo is not playing. So, and then of course Corral went out for a little bit of time.
You're missing your best offensive lineman now. Yeah.
It's just one of those things as we march down into November. The physical grind of the SEC West is brutal. On the other side, was this Will Rogers coming out party? Or has he already had it?
I think the win at A&M was certainly a
he made some great throws down the
recognize
stretch.
my name type thing. Like players, people outside the SEC West and outside of Starkville and Oxford said, "Oh, who's this Will Rogers kid?" when they beat A&M.
Yeah.
But this is, even if Kentucky's a less talented team than A&M or even LSU with all their nonsense, beating a number 12 ranked 6-1 primetime team, at home in front of your crowd. This is his biggest home game, he and Leach, without question.
Yeah.
And so you had a good crowd, you had an engaged crowd, you put up
We'll say this out
statistical
loud.
numbers.
Will Rogers has beat North Carolina State, at A&M, and Kentucky this year.
Yep.
As a true sophomore.
Yep.
Is there anybody still out there that's not?
Well, remember, he doesn't have a strong arm.
Right, and that is jock, strap, Jamie type stuff.
I love it.
I can't even tell you how meatballian, we got to run the ball 85% of the time, Woody Hayes, type stuff.
What throw did he not make Saturday that you felt like he needed a stronger arm to make, right? That touch pass to Christian Ford on third down early in the game to get going on that second touchdown drive to take the lead. That's a throw that 1 out of 100 quarterbacks make in college. And he got away with one later in the game where it could have been a pick, but other than that one throw, 36 of his 39 throws were near perfection.
Yeah.
And that's what you need.
One was a drop. Incredible.
Yeah.
Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. We're powered by MississippiSportsMedicine.com for any orthopedic hiccup. Good morning. Welcome in. The show is also brought to you by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. We'll have Tom Luganville on at 8:30. He'll take us in a little bit of a deep dive into Hail State and Kentucky and Ole Miss and Auburn. What do you think about Auburn? Are you more impressed? Is that what you expected?
Defensively,
they're
you got to be impressed,
physical
right?
team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they did what they had to do in the red zone. You can say Ole Miss didn't do this, but also it's all about the red zone now in football. And when Ole Miss had their opportunities, Auburn did some things to get off the field.
Yep.
And, Bama has to go to Auburn.
Uh-oh. Brian Harsin, SEC West championship in his first season?
Well, I'm not going that far yet because they have to travel to A&M this weekend. And boy, is that the game of the week times 5 million.
It's the first time CBS has not taken Alabama LSU since 2006.
Wow.
They are taking Auburn A&M.
And they should.
And there's no doubt about it.
Okay. They should.
It'd be a disservice to the fans to take LSU A&M or LSU Alabama this year.
Auburn at A&M. And Hugh Freeze comes back to Oxford. Hey, it's just never ending, the storylines. especially in the state of Mississippi when it comes to sports, and I love it. Hugh Freeze will coach in Vaught Hemingway Stadium on the field on Saturday. I think that's an 11 a.m. Tito's Vodka Bloody Mary game, yeah. All right, SEC Insider Hit coming up next. Powered by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home. Save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Good morning. Welcome in on a Max Effort Monday. The Out of Bounds Show podcast is presented by Edwin Watts Golf Shop on County Line Road. Your golf game starts with Edwin Watts Golf Shop.
Everyone ready?
This is the SEC Insider Hit. Presented by your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Go local. Go with a home team.
All right, good morning. Welcome in. Hail State with the win over Kentucky. Dominant, too. Dominating defensive performance. Will Rogers was spectacular, and they had yards after contact running the football, Blake. I think that is a recipe for success. You don't like to see that special teams mistake.
Yeah.
But really big win for Mike Leach and Will Rogers and that staff as they've been kind of playing under the shadow of Kiffin and the high-flying Matt Corral offense even though they have huge wins and better wins. Again, at LSU, NC State at home, at A&M. And this one was pretty darn good against a Kentucky team that is still limited but really salty, well-coached, physical.
And it beaten you three.
Kind of like a Jackie Sherrill, light team in the 90s. So.
Yeah, and they'd beaten you 3 out of the last 6. So, I mean.
Was it 3 of 6?
Yeah, the home teams won each of the last 6 games. So it was 3-3 in the last 6 years. So that you didn't want to lose another one.
No, they didn't.
You didn't want to lose another one to Kentucky.
Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. That would have been bad.
Yes, it would.
There would have been some crazy texters. I haven't checked the text line, but there would have been some nutty texters. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We'll have Tom Luganbill in 1 hour. Tom Luganbill, 1 hour from now, and he'll join us on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Tom Luganbill with ESPN in an hour to go through the Southeastern Conference. Tip of the cap to Will Rogers, still a very, very young player, but thrown into the mix way too early, not his fault, and has just showed that leadership and composure and things that we talk about time and time again, even when his back's against the wall and so on. And, Blake, they needed this win because now they have 2 brutal road games. You got to go to Fayetteville. On Saturday, you play at 3 o'clock. And then you go to Auburn and on the Plains, and we know all about Auburn, and everybody listening watched that game too on Saturday night. So Will was great. Zach Arnett dialed up some cool stuff for that defense. They lost Martin Emerson on the first possession of the game.
Yep.
Did you agree with that call?
Nope.
Yeah.
He may have lowered his head a bit, but I mean, I didn't think he was anywhere close to the forcible area, which is like neck and head. And then I didn't think he was that, it was last second that his head dipped down. So I don't know. I mean, whatever.
And he led kind of with his hands.
He hit him with his arms first.
Yeah.
So I don't,
So you were down Martin Emerson and Fred Peters, your starting safety.
Yep.
And then you had some other guys, but they played well. They shut Kentucky down, got down early, and then outscored Kentucky 31-3 in the second and third quarter.
Yep. Which
is not what they've been doing if you look at the quarters where they've been productive. But they go 31-3, and that was ball game. 31-3, second and third quarter.
Yeah, and they really didn't get Kentucky's offense get going until late in the fourth quarter too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't like it was super early, so it was an impressive job from Zach Arnett. I mean, that might be their best defensive performance. I don't know. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I don't know how you can rank Kentucky ahead of Mississippi State in your power rankings.
At this point, you can't, right?
After that dominant performance. One day, if you can't figure out that they're in the East and the gap between the West and the East is like the gap between Eastern Kentucky playing basketball and the Kentucky Wildcats playing basketball. I mean, they just can't close it. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, and the East is so down and so bad.
Yeah.
And they have some terrible teams, some bad coaching, bad offenses, and so on. And you look at the SEC West top to bottom, and I talk about this all the time. Mississippi State and Ole Miss are so tough and mentally tough, and they have to be just to try to survive any kind of run in the SEC West. And you look at that, and you look at the way like the Texas Longhorns play, Blake, and you look at that kind of toughness component of what Ole Miss and Mississippi State have to face every single year in September and October, November. And our kids don't quit. They play hard. They have this chiseled toughness to them. And you don't have to do that at South Carolina. You don't have to do that at Kentucky or Missouri. And then you look out in the Big 12 where they're doing a big pillow fight every Saturday. And it's just amazing as Texas loses another lead in the fourth quarter. And I sit there and watch them, and I'm like, man, the competitive will and competitive drive and the chiseled toughness that it takes to do this, what are y'all going to do when you join this thing?
No.
Even if we break it up into 4 pods.
Which will be a saving grace to Mississippi State and Ole Miss.
It will, because they're going to avoid playing Alabama every year.
Yeah.
Which you just can't put a number on it. If you can break up the Bama, Auburn, LSU, A&M stretch that you get every year, not counting the 3 teams, MSU, Ole Miss, and Arkansas, who are plenty physical, have athletes, and can beat just about anybody in the country. All right, and if you drop them over in the East, you're looking at a game and a half a year, which is huge in football. Maybe sometimes an average of 2 games a year if you drop the Dogs, Rebs, or Hogs over in the East.
There's no doubt.
And so when you look at this gauntlet that we have year in, year out, Ole Miss didn't give up Saturday. I mean, they refused to stop. Texas would have been beat, Blake, by another 14 points.
Well, we saw what they did
Saturday night.
We saw what they did when they came into Arkansas and played against again, competitive but not elite Arkansas football club.
I mean, no wonder Jackie Sherrill beat them back-to-back in 91 and 92, long before we were talking about all the stuff that we talk about today, like recruiting rank. You know, that Texas team on paper would have been a top 5 recruiter.
For sure.
Sherrill's Bulldogs would not have been.
No,
and now I look at this, and I got to watch a lot of football before we went out to tailgate with some friends. We didn't go till like 4:15 on Saturday afternoon. And Blake, I'm watching Michigan, and I'm watching Texas and these big brands, and I watch Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Again, I cannot say enough about the will, the drive, the toughness, and the gap between the West and the East.
The physicality index of the SEC West is just I just don't think we do a good enough job, not just us, you and me, but like we as media people do a good enough job really outlining how much more difficult it is to play in the SEC West. When one game, sure, fine. Anybody can come in and beat another West team one game.
Yeah.
I get that. But when you have to play 6 in a row or 6 out of 8 against West teams, that's such a more like I just don't think there's a way to show the exponential pain factor that comes in by week 4 and week 5 and week 6.
And I don't know what we're going to have down the stretch with Ole Miss and Mississippi State. They're beat up.
Ole Miss is, but they're more beat up than I think I've seen them in a while.
I know that. Leach and Kiffin's teams are not going to quit. Our kids have a lot of pride. And
well, they've been told they're not good enough. A lot of these kids are told they're not good enough to start at Alabama or start at LSU.
Well, and you also start to build the armor as you play every season in this league and realize that you just have to continue to go or you'll get run out of the stadium.
And how much does it help having a quarterback in Matt Corral and a quarterback in Will Rogers who, even though Will's obviously 2 years behind Corral in maturity and length of being at the school, but you can see for sure in Corral, and you're starting to see it in Will Rogers, the ability to get guys to believe that they can win the game.
That's right.
That is not something Mississippi State didn't have that. I mean, it's not that Nick Fitzgerald wasn't a good quarterback, and I think he was able to bring some people with him at times, but you go from Fitzgerald to like a combination of Tommy Stevens and KJ Costello and a freshman Will Rogers, and you see that the team maybe doesn't believe that they can win games. Once you get that mentality, that mojo, Matt Corral, same thing. First year, that team didn't believe that he was going to win games for them.
Right.
Now, he's out there carting himself off the field and back on.
And then comes back.
Yeah.
So did you think that defense was going to quit?
No, of course not.
After watching
and that's the same thing you're seeing in Starkville now,
right.
is that the team is starting to believe that, hey, Will Rogers can win us football games. We just have to be there for him.
Right.
Matt Corral can win us football games. We just have to perform for him.
Well, speaking of wicked performance of the week, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance, Will Rogers.
No doubt.
Okay, I know that. And I could have gone with the defense as a whole, but Will Rogers was 36 of 39 for 344. And I'll say this, Woody Marks is continuing to develop and evolve into a super productive player as both a running back and receiver, where he had over 100 yards combined running and catching the ball. So that was a big deal. Will was great. Zach Arnett's defense was great, and they played really well. And they were down several big names too. It's overshadowed when a Corral or a Will gets hurt, but there were several players that were out for Mississippi State, and the word is that they will be back for the road game against Sam Pittman and Kendall Briles and the Arkansas Razorbacks and KJ Jefferson, who is from the state of Mississippi, and he's the starting quarterback for the Arkansas Razorbacks. When you look at how this air raid is kind of, Blake, moving along, they did run the ball a little bit better. Now, some people are going crazy. What happened sometimes is Kentucky only had 2 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Stoops was like, "Hey, we're gonna do what we did last year, and we won't just drop 8. We'll drop 9 every now and then."
Yeah.
And so they took advantage of it. I don't know how much autonomy Will Rogers has at the line of scrimmage yet. I would think he's getting more and more. Gardner Minshew told us in studio that when you get to a certain point, Leach gives you 2 plays. It's up to you. You read the defense, you make the call. So, and that may be happening with Will too. He was fantastic calling the game. I mean, they only averaged 2.9 yards per carry with Marks, but they ran it 20 times. 11 times with Dylan Johnson for 3.7 yards per carry. So they averaged, 2.7 yards per carry, but they did run it 35 times. What do you think about the balance? People are harping on it.
I think balance is success.
Yeah.
So I think that you probably won't see Mike Leach do this every week, and nor probably should he, because teams will start to try to adapt, and that's what they did against Kentucky. As soon as Kentucky brought 3 and 4 down linemen, all of a sudden the passing lanes were there, right? And you saw him hit Jaden Wally down the middle and Mekhi Polk down the middle, and you saw guys open on the seams and completing 15 and 16-yard passes and 20-yard passes. So Mike Leach is not dumb. He knows how to flow the offense, and when things are working, you've got to get the whole point of his offense is take what they give you. Don't force your offense. If they're going to give you 2 down linemen, hand the ball off. Even if it goes for 3 yards, it's okay, because they'll put somebody else down there, and then somebody's open in the passing game.
They'll walk another guy down.
Yeah, I think it was incredible. And you mentioned the way they used Marks. He had 29 touches, 20 carries, 9 receptions. He is second in the SEC in receptions, regardless of position. Mekhi
Polk's first.
Mekhi Polk's first. Ironically, Kentucky receiver Wendell Robinson and Jaquavius Marks are both tied with 58 catches.
Wow. Okay.
That's incredible. To have 2 guys up at the top of the list, but one of them be a running back. But that's what it takes. It shows you all they did was dink, 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 and then finally you get a big pass.
Well, you just said something that big pass, explosive plays.
Yeah.
The one that all right, so our explosive plays this morning are brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Jaden Wiley, 29-yard catch, Blake. That's not what Mississippi State's done the last 100 years.
Nope.
Mekhi Polk had a 23-yard catch. That's another explosive play. Ra Thomas had a 25-yard catch, which happened to be a touchdown on the left side of the field, in which Will Rogers threw an absolute dime to Ra Thomas, who's a true freshman.
Yep.
And then Christian Ford almost had an explosive play. It was a 17-yard catch.
Yeah.
Those when you're doing that, you're stretching the defense both horizontally and vertically, and you're putting so much pressure on them. Did you notice Kentucky at times didn't know what in the world they were supposed to be doing?
Well, and they
were getting frustrated.
Yep, in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, even though State didn't score in the fourth quarter, they held the ball for like 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, which was insane. And
that's where Will said they should have punched it in.
And
again.
they did, but they got the holding call. Remember, they had the run. It was like a 10-yard, 15-yard
the phantom
run.
holding call?
Yeah, well, there were a couple. But the Kentucky defenders ran so much horizontally that by the time you got into that third quarter when State scored 17 and then the fourth quarter where they held the ball another 8-9 minutes, every play Kentucky defenders were just the whole play. You could see them hands on the hips, couldn't breathe. And so Kubelik mentioned that. Cole Kubelik talked about that on the sideline, how you could see the way they were running plays. It was killing Kentucky's defense to have to run like that.
Yeah.
And that's the success of the air raid. Take 5 yards every time, and when the defense gets impatient and they try to make a play happen out of nothing, someone's open. And that's the maturity of Will Rogers. The throws he wasn't hitting or even taking last year, now they're hitting.
Sure.
Now they're getting first downs. They're getting big plays. And look, they had the pass interference late.
Can I say it again? I bought Will Rogers stock last year.
No, I mean,
so
he's playing well. And so
I created my own ETF. I'm good.
Yeah, no, that's what you want to see in the air raid offense is what he's doing.
Yeah.
Take 5 yards, take 5 yards, take 5 yards, and then the defense will get unhappy. The defensive coordinator will get impatient, which they all do. And you saw that from Kentucky. They got impatient.
They did get impatient.
And as soon as they got impatient, Will Rogers hit a play for 15-plus yards.
Well,
and it changes the game.
Will and Leach's game plan was magnificent.
The question is that the type of offense you see down the stretch from
I don't know.
State?
You're not going to do just because you did it this weekend at Arkansas, at Auburn dude, that's just tough stuff, as we just described the whole SEC West. So we'll see. You're not going to go 36 or 39 every weekend. I think everybody should know that. Max Effort Monday brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We want to welcome you in, say good morning. I don't know what's going on with Matt Corral. We've received a couple of texts on the Ag Up Equipment text line, 601-885-3776. Mississippi Ag, now Ag Up Equipment, agup.com. Manage your land with the John Deere tractor from Ag Up Equipment. And again, that text line is 601-885-3776. We'll have Tom Luganbill at 8:30. Blake, Corral said that he heard a pop or felt a pop. And it looked bad. He was able to come out. He said, I heard it pop. And I couldn't feel my ankle. I don't know what it was. And I couldn't feel it for like 5 minutes. So I don't know. You're talking about a just crazy talented player who, by the way, Blake, did everything he could in the second half to try to bring Ole Miss back.
Yeah, I don't know how he's even walking.
I don't either.
Given what I saw and the way he talked about it after the game.
Can they beat Liberty and Hugh Freeze with Luke Altmaier? I guess they could because of the talent advantage, but Malik Willis is considered one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's a transfer from Auburn.
War Eagle, baby.
Okay. And he's done a great job in Hugh Freeze's offense the last couple of years. I don't think he's as good as Matt Corral. In fact, no, he's not. But he is a good player. He's a dynamic player. He can hurt you in multiple ways. It will be interesting, Blake, to see what kind of, if we get any information this week, and if Corral goes Saturday morning the whole time, or do they feel like they need to sit him as they get ready for A&M? I don't know.
I think it will be bad news if Ole Miss needs Matt Corral to play full game against Liberty, because that tells me two things. One, they are so far removed from the team we saw
a few weeks ago
because of injury and whatever. But secondly, we talked about how brutal the stretch for Ole Miss would be. They took their bye week in week 4. I mean, that's probably the most unfortunate thing you could have happen in a season where
no doubt.
Everything else set up well for you.
Yeah.
So you now have gone a gauntlet of at Alabama, Arkansas at home. Both those games were incredibly physical. At Tennessee, incredibly physical. You got a weird cakewalk win against LSU, which I don't think anyone was really expecting. And then you played at Auburn, which might have been the most physical game you've played yet. That defense is just...
That was a
the way that Auburn defense flows to the football once it's off of Corral's hand was incredible. I mean, they were so aggressive. So now you've got Liberty, A&M, Vanderbilt, and State. Another 4 games. I mean, you're going 9 straight games, no off. And Liberty is about the worst Power 5 or non-Power 5 late season game you could pull if you're Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have Matt Corral play 60 minutes, because how's he going to play against A&M, Vandy, and State too? Those are your concerns. This is a game that you should, in theory, have only played Corral for a half, if that. But because it's Malik Willis, because it's Hugh Freeze, and because you're down your top 3 receivers, your top offensive linemen, dude, I don't know what you're going to do. They may have to lock Hugh Freeze out if they want to win.
Okay. Well, Freeze will be making another appearance at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium as the opposing head coach. We didn't think there was any way that he would still be at Liberty 3 years later when we saw this game on the schedule.
No chance. I didn't think there was a chance he was at Liberty right now.
Hugh Freeze, who had some of the highest of the highs and lowest of the lows, and who is unbelievable at coaching offense. What would you say? Motivating young people?
Yeah, he's an inspirational guy.
Yeah.
He gets people ready to go.
He gets people play for him, no doubt. Demario Davis sat in this studio 2 years ago, and I asked him. Now, he had not been under Sean Payton in this whole Saints thing, but we asked him, who was your best coach, favorite coach? He's like, Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
So there is something to that he has a quality. I know people like to take shots at some of the weaknesses, but and you know how bad he wants this game to be competitive into the second half.
We're not there yet, and we'll talk more about this, but if Matt Corral doesn't play, how much does that give Hugh Freeze an opportunity to win?
I just don't. The talent gap is still,
Yeah, but I've seen bad teams beat good teams before.
Yeah.
And how much of that talent is on the field? See, that's Ole Miss's problem. You're in the middle of this 9-game stretch, and you're missing arguably 5 of your best offensive players. Top 3 receivers. Your quarterback is now
we'll
really
see what
hurt.
Drummond.
Yeah.
Sanders played sparingly, but was not effective. Mingo's out to at least A&M.
Ugh. That's not good.
Right?
And they couldn't run the ball against Auburn the way they wanted to.
Right,
which would
and Lane talked about that after the game.
Would have given a lot of relief to Matt Corral, but they just couldn't get it going.
And with 3 guys who are very talented, Ely, Snoop, and Parrish. Your favorite coach, Dan Mullen, laid an egg this weekend. That was a bad 2 minutes going into the half for the Florida Gators. Max Effort Monday, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We're going to have Tom Luganbill coming up at 8:30 on the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale guest line. Tom Luganbill, 8:30, right here on 105.9 The Zone, ESPN.